need truth, this is the place for you. No need to complicate it, it's best to keep it basic. Open the book, the word is self-approved. He's Alpha and Omega, the answer since the early ages. What you should do is learn about the greatest. Just so you know, our door is always open. Let's study together instead of debating. Share our differences, let love heal all that's broken.
And shalom aleichem to each and every one of you. So glad to have you with us today. This is yours truly, Apostle V.W. Jones Sr., right here on what is known as the Bible Book Club. We're glad to have you with us. Hope that you'll be able to enjoy a lot of what's going on here today. And just for a few pieces of information, we are here every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on your favorite channel. This is the VWJ Ministries on Facebook and the VWJ Ministries on YouTube. So glad that you're with us. Please, if you're with us tonight, would you take the opportunity to hit the heart sign and like sign? Grant us the ability to move some type of algorithm around, as well. Make a comment for those things that we will all discuss. Remember, we are here discussing these items today. We're not here just to read it and me teach you all day. We want to make sure that we are taking the opportunity to learn, and then not only just learn, but express what we have learned and what we are learning from the writ. Would you guys mind if we just took an opportunity to get prepared? Again, we welcome you to the Bible Book Club. We're going to get the Torah up and running right now so you guys can get started and we can get moving on what's necessary in this space and in this time. Let us take opportunity to pray. Yahweh, thanking you for your grace, your love, your word, your purpose, your plan for our lives. We don't know it all, but we act like sometimes we do. But today we come before you, asking you to grace us with your wisdom. Forgive us of any and all sins. First off, we repent for murmuring, complaining. We repent for judgmentalism. We repent for anything that could have transgressed your will for our lives and caused us to find ourselves in a poor place and mind with you. This is our earnest prayer in the precious, in the matchless name of Yeshua HaMashiach. I decrease all things that are VW Jones, that you, Adonai, would increase. Your word is what's preeminent here. Your word is what is taking the forefront and the stage, and we give you the opportunity now to teach us. Share with us what it is you need for us to know about your word. Help us as we dig into it, as we look to sort of kind of be still and know you are Elohim. Grace us now. We give you the floor. We commandeer our souls, our voices, our minds to you. In the matchless name of Yeshua HaMashiach, we pray and we say, Amen. Well, again, we're glad to have you. I can now see, glasses on face, and we are ready to go. Well, it seems like we stopped off on our last Bible Book Club. Please, if you're coming in on Facebook, YouTube, I need you to hit the heart sign. I need you to hit the like sign. I need you to make a comment on the platform. If you don't do it for anything, just do it for me. All right, thanks. All right, let's get started in our teachings. Well, we left off on our last Bible Book Club in the space of Genesis chapter and number 49. So we'll pick up there just to get a good go of it and start where we have to be and start doing what we need to do to get what we have already begun in our head and our hearts. We literally stopped off at verse 11. So what we'll do is we'll just pick up from verse number, let's go see from verse number, I won't stop until I get to 11. How about that? So we'll start at verse number 49, verse 1. And Jacob called unto his sons and said, gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days. Now Jacob is about to die. So he's about to pass on, as he was passed on to him, a sense of blessing. We call this the Father's blessing, but it is actually the blessing of Abraham, passed on to Isaac, passed on to Jacob. Now Jacob is passing it on to all of Israel. Verse 1, Jacob called his sons and said, gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days. Verse 2, gather yourselves together, hear ye, sons of Jacob, and hearken unto Israel, your father. Reuben, thou art my firstborn, my might, and the beginning of my strength, the excellency of my dignity, and the excellency of power. Reuben, you're unstable as water. Thou shalt not excel, because thou wentest up to thy father's bed. Then defiled thou it. He went up to my couch. Verse 5. Simeon and Levi, you guys are brethren. You're instruments of cruelty, and that's what's in your habitations. Verse 6. O my soul, come not thou into their secret, unto their assembly. Mine honor be not thou united. For in their anger they slew a man, and in their self will they digged down a wall. Verse 7. Cursed be their anger, for it was fierce, and their wrath, for it was cruel. I will divide them in Jacob, and I will scatter them in Israel. Uda, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise. Thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies. Thy father's children shall bow down before thee. Uda is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, thou art gone up. He stooped down. He crouched as a lion, and as an old lion. Who shall rouse him up? Verse 10. The scepter shall not depart from Uda, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh come. And unto him shall the gathering of the people be, binding his fowl unto the vine, and his ass's colt unto the choice vine. He washed his garments in wine, his clothes in the grapes, the blood of grapes, moderators, in the blood of grapes. His eyes shall be red with wine, and his teeth shall be white with milk. All right, so for a very quick recap of where we've been on this, remembering that he is giving you the idea of what will be happening in the last days. Now, everything that Jacob, their father Israel, has said literally has and is coming to pass. Reuben never became the firstborn to take the scepter and run Israel. His strength is real. His power is real. Levi and Simeon, their anger was fierce. They did do what that was said. And Levi was, in fact, scattered throughout all the tribes and the regions in the promised land of Jacob, of Israel. And then you have also Uda, who is, in fact, a lion's whelp. And we know that we can talk specifically and sort of in an envelope regarding Yeshua HaMashiach, who we call the lion of the tribe of Uda. And he's an old, wise lion. Who's going to rouse him up? Well, no one got Yeshua riled up, and therefore we see that Jacob's prophecies as well as blessings on these that he has called thus far have in fact come to pass. And the scepter will be in the hand of Yeshua HaMashiach, who is from the tribe of Uda. And predating him, the scepter went into the hands of David, who is from the tribe of Uda. After David, it went into the hand of Solomon, who is from the tribe of Uda. And even in the split of Israel during the Civil War, the scepter for at least Udea, the southern kingdom, went to the hand of Rehoboam, while the northern kingdom got a new king, and they were called Jeroboam. So everything thus far has come to pass. And again, in the subsequent scenarios of Uda, the tribe, Uda, the whelp of the lion, you have the life of Yeshua HaMashiach. He comes as and will return as the lion. And though he was also the lamb, he in fact has and will fulfill this particular prophecy that when Messiah returns, the lion's whelp, the lion of the tribe of Judah, will sit on the throne in Jerusalem and unify all the nations of Israel under his foot. And all the brethren, just as was spoken here, will in fact bow down to this lion. Now, mind you, this is where you hear the phrase within Christendom from the New Testament perspective that every knee shall bow, every tongue shall confess that Yeshua is Lord, Governor, Master, and that to the glory and fulfillment of Yahweh's prophecy. So these are the things that we have to pay attention to and not just, sort of kind of skim past and run through and put ourselves in a position where we are trying to just have something to teach or preach. But you will see that everything that this prophet, this now man of Elohim, Israel, has stated. I want to make this very clear for those of you from a redundant perspective. I want you from a redundant perch. I want you to look up at verse 1 and listen to this in verses 1 and 2 before we touch verses 11 and continue reading through 49. Jacob called his sons and said, "Gather yourselves together that I may tell you that which shall befall you." Verse 2, listen, listen, listen. "Gather yourselves together and hear, you sons of Jacob, and hearken unto a new person, Israel, who is your father." Now, it's the weirdest thing because if you're a son of Jacob, then Jacob's your father. But he then says in verse 2, I want you to hearken unto Israel, who is in fact your father. Many might not really pay close attention to this, but he had those sons while he was in fact named, though the prophecy would be he'd be Israel, while he was the man, Jacob. All of his children were born while he was called Jacob. Quite frankly, and most interestingly, he was also known as Jacob because, in fact, though he knew of the God of Avram and Isaac, he knew of the God of Avram and Isaac. He later, after having children, decided to call Yahweh not the God of Avram and Isaac, but he then finally converted and said, when he brought him out of the wilderness, out of Padam Aram, into the promised land, into, I should say, the promise of a better place, and he went into Goshen, he made it very clear at that state, Yahweh is my Elohim. And therefore, Israel, though changed in the battle with the angel, he was told, I'm not going to let you go until you bless me. And the angel said unto him, "What's your name?" And he says, "Your name shall no longer be called Jacob. It shall be called Israel." Now, unfortunately, Jacob did not completely commit to Yahweh being his Elohim, though he had a pending promise to Elohim that if he brought him out, brought him back to his father, he would, in fact, give him a tithe of all, and Elohim would be his Elohim. So we want to make sure we don't make any element to convolute and or miss time when Jacob and the prophecy to be called Israel transpires. I want you to pay attention to it because now you'll understand verse 2 when he makes the statement, and I put this on the screen so you guys can read it. Verse 2, "Gather yourselves together and hear me, you sons of Jacob." Then he makes a very interesting statement. He says, "Now hearken unto Israel. Because Israel, as you know, looking at the word Israel in verse 2 of chapter 49, Israel, and I'm going to put this on the screen for you guys to read it. Israel is the word here in the Hebrew H3478, Yisrael, meaning he who rules as Elohim in Elohim's stead. Israel is, and they say here, a symbolic name for Jacob, typically of his posterity, Israel. Now, this word Yisrael comes from the word 8280, and 8280 is the word Sarah, which means one who prevails. And it means to have the power as a prince. Very significant piece here. Now, when you also go back to Israel, one of the words that is, as we love to say, a root word is the word 4110 for Israel, and 4110 indicts the phrase that he is El, right? Which means strength. As an adjective, it means mighty, especially connected to the Almighty, but used also of any deity, whether it be Elohim or a God or a goodly entity or a great person or an idol, a mighty one who has power, who is strong. You can pair the names in El, meaning the strong one. Now, El is shortened from the word 352, and that 352 gives you the word Aiel. Now, the word Aiel comes from 193, but Aiel shortened, the word is the word used here, Aiel, means strength, anything strong, specifically a chief. Politically, also, it means a ram, from a ram's strength, a pilaster, all right, as a strong support, something that is like an oak. An oak just doesn't move, or some other strong tree, and also can reference to a mighty man, lintel, an oak, a post, a ram, a tree. So Ayel is actually from the same word as 193, and the word 193 is ul, which from an unused root means to twist, i.e., by implication, again, to be strong. The body as being rolled together, also powerful, mighty, and strength. So now you have every understanding of Israel, and the latter part of Israel, again, from the words O, Ayel, El, all of them meaning strong. And the strong one is the word El, and that's where you get Elohim. All right. So we want to make sure you understand that in verse 2, when he says, gather yourselves together to hear, you sons that were born of the man Jacob before my transformation, I want you to hearken now to the man transformed called Israel, one who rules in the stead of Elohim, all right, and in his posterity. Israel, this man who now rules, is your father. Hearken, listen intently to what I'm going to say. And in many cases, you could say this without taking it out of context. He is talking about one who, in fact, is speaking prophetically and according to the will, i.e., the blessing of Elohim, who, in fact, empowers him. So, when we take the opportunity to read in this way, you have to take a slow look at what the definitions of the words and all of the different types of participles that go along with, and more importantly, the etymology of the actual Hebrew word. Because to us, Israel just means a nation, but Israel is a power. The prince who sits instead of Elohim in the earthen realm. And from Israel would come one whose scepter would never leave from one of the sons called the tribe of Uda. And so Uda, Yeshua comes from it, is in fact holding the scepter. He is the Lord of Lords. He is the King of Kings. And this is a significant thing for those of you like myself who are believers in the finished work of Calvary's cross, aka, most importantly, Pesach, the commandment of Elohim for the people of Elohim. Now, let's go a little deeper into this study, and I'm hoping that you guys have something great to talk about and say as we read. I'm going to see where you are with it. So we've sort of caught ourselves up from Genesis chapter 49, verses 1 all the way down to verse 11. And so just for the sake of making sure it binds with you, let's read it together one more time. Jacob called unto his sons and said, gather yourselves together, that I may tell you which shall befall you in the last days. Verse 2, gather yourselves together and hear, you sons of Jacob, and hearken unto Israel, who is your father. Reuben, this was going to happen to you. Verse 4, you're unstable as water. You're not going to excel, because it was known that the firstborn should always be the one who ascends to the head and becomes the patriarch when a patriarch expires. Verse number 5, Simeon and Levi, you guys are straight cruelty. It's all in your habitations, all right? And then he begs Yahweh, don't let my soul, the way I am, come into their way. Don't let my soul be united with their cruel ways, because their anger slew a man. And their anger is fierce, as well as their wrath. It's cruel. And here is what happened to them in verse 7. They were divided, particularly Levi was divided amongst the tribes. Verse 8, Uda again, the lions whelp. Verse 9, verse 10, the scepter shall not depart from Uda, and not until Shiloh come. Well, Shiloh, the word Shiloh here, is the Hebrew word 7886. It is Shiloh, which means until tranquility comes. And Shiloh is an epithet of the word and the entity we deem the Messiah, the Mashiach. Now, Shiloh also comes from the Hebrew word 7951, right? So 7951 gives you an understanding of Shalah. Shalah is a primitive root meaning something that will be tranquil, and in a sense, something that is secure. Shiloh, Messiah, is, catch this, successful. Shiloh means it can make you happy. It can cause you to prosper. And if you pay attention to Mashiach, Shiloh, it is safety, i.e., salvation. All right, I wanted to make sure we got those particulars out of the way while we continue moving now into verse number 11. So we know that Shiloh references the Messiah. He's coming. He will always have the scepter in his hand. It's there presently. He's just not sitting on the throne physically that is in Jerusalem. He is, in fact, sitting in the throne of the right hand of the Father, waiting for the Father to send Yeshua, who is now Shiloh, with his scepter back to Jerusalem to sit on the throne and be King of Kings in the earthen realm. Now, verse 11 gives a little bit of insight of how particularly accurate Yahweh wants us to know who this person would be. He says that verse 11, that Shiloh would be binding his foal unto a vine. Messiah told you, I am the vine. John chapters 15. I am the vine. My Father is the husbandman. The second part of verse 11 says, binding his foal unto the vine, and his ass's colt unto the choice vine. So he was the vine, but they binded him to the ass's colt and rode him through Jerusalem, and the people began to call him the Mashiach. They began to call him the Messiah. So verse 11 is again extremely prophetic in two different ways. So you and I, and they had hoped that even Israel in that time would pay attention to the reality that there is, as we love to call it, a sense of a, how do we say this, clear view of who the person would be. Now, that's what's said in verse 11. Binding his foal unto the vine, as his ass's colt unto the choice vine, he washed his garments in wine. Now, he did, in fact, make wine out of water. There was, in fact, an issue that he told the disciples during the meal of Pesach when he represented and lifted up the cup from the meal of Pesach and said, this cup, wine, would represent my blood. I love how Yahweh does this and leaves these breadcrumbs and this trail for us to follow who are really seeking him and not just trying to be religious. We can see Yahweh had a plan. Could y'all just type that in for me? Yahweh had a plan. I don't know if I'll beat y'all to doing it, but I'm going to try. Y'all might beat me. Y'all might beat me. All right, here we go. Yahweh always had a plan. All right. Now let's get back to the writ so we can look at this with some sense of clarity. So now in verse number 11, he washed his garments, part B, 11b. He washed his garments in wine and his clothes in the blood of grapes. So we know that Yeshua's garments were in fact blood stained. Okay. And this is a significant thing for you as a reader and a seeker of Elohim's kingdom, not just your viewpoints from Christianity, where you can see what really happened. And now this is the foundation for why you and I saw what was recorded as him having blood all over his garment, blood pouring out of him, and then him representing the blood at the table of Pesach. All right. Now, before I go into verse number 12, I believe a moderator spoke up. Wanda, you had a thought or a question?
Yes, sir. I had a question about verse 10. I was trying to stop you before you went to 11. You explained the scepter will not depart from Uda. Could you explain the nor the ruler's staff from his descendants until the coming of the one to whom it belongs?
Where are you reading from?
That would be Genesis 49, the B part of verse 10.
Verse 10 says, the scepter shall not depart from Uda, nor the lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh come, and unto him shall the gathering of the people be. I don't think we said and read the same thing in part B as you read. What translation are you coming from?
Okay, never mind. I apologize.
No need to apologize. That's the purpose of Bible Book Club. What translation are you able to see?
I didn't realize it was switched over. It's NLT.
And this is why I try to tell you guys, be very careful. Now, would you do us a favor so we can use this as a teachable moment, Wanda?
Yes, sir.
Would you read part B again? Matter of fact, read the whole verse, but I want everybody to pay attention to part B. And I want you to see something. If you just keep reading translations without understanding definitions, you will get caught up in the translational errors that can happen, or translational perspectives of the given denomination preferred writing that particular translation. Would you read? I'm going to keep verse 10 up on the screen for everyone to see, and I want you to read your translation, which is the NLT. Would you read it? Let's see how close it compares and is a parallel. Verse 10, read it, please.
Genesis 49, verse 10. And it reads, the scepter will not depart from Judah.
Pause. So right now, everything runs the same. Mine, the king, not mine, but the King James says, the scepter shall not depart from Judah. So we're all on the same page. It all makes sense. Continue reading.
Nor the ruler's staff from his descendants.
Nor the ruler's staff from his descendants. Now, look at what it says in King James. Nor a lawgiver, which could be a ruler, from between Udah's feet, meaning again, his descendants. Okay, so let's look at, the ruler, which that word is different in the NL, not in your, but in the NLT, as opposed to in the KJV. Nor a lawgiver. Your version says nor a ruler. So a lawgiver is a ruler. That word is kokok, right? Kokok, and it means properly to hack and engraved, or as in Judges chapter 5, verse 14, to be a scribe, simply. By implication, to enact laws being cut in stone or metal tablets in primitive times, or generally prescribed, watch this, appoint, a decree, made governor, grave, lawgiver, make note, portray. Did Messiah portray the Torah? Print, leave a set, and some say a set image. So now back to verse 10. The scepter shall not depart from Uda, nor a lawgiver from between Udah's feet. So lawgiver could be passed off as a ruler, right? Because it does say a governor in the translation for lawgiver. And it says from between his feet until Shiloh comes, right? So if you pay attention to that passage, the lawgiver, the ruler, it never, ever, ever stopped. There was always a king who, in fact, ruled Israel, or after the Civil War, even ruled Udea by Torah. Now, some were more loose with it. Some were more like Yeshua. And then he says, they're going to not be a lawgiver. There will not be a ruler that would not hold the scepter from Udah's descendants until Shiloh comes. Now, I'm going to stop there before we go into the rest of the NLT. I'll give you, let's continue with the NLT so we can keep moving on it. So now, until Shiloh comes, can you pick up from there in the NLT for us, Minister Wanda?
Yes, sir. Nor the ruler's staff by his descendants until the coming of the one to whom it belongs, the one whom all nations will honor.
Right. So, and unto him shall the gathering of the people. Notice it does not say Israel. It says the people. We are, Israel is incorporated in the people. Well, that's where the passage of the writ goes on to state that every knee shall bow and every tongue shall confess that Yeshua is Lord, governor, ruler, lawgiver. The portrayal, the portraying of the word of Elohim. Now, this is important. I want to go back up into verse 10 of chapter 49, and I'd like to express an interesting piece. The scepter shall not depart from Uda, nor a lawgiver from between Udah's feet until Shiloh comes. Can you read, nor a ruler from his descendants? Can you read that next piece, please?
Yes, sir. Nor the ruler's staff from his descendants until the coming of the one to whom it belongs.
Well, the Messiah is the one it belongs to, right?
Yes.
So it doesn't take it out of context, but if you don't pay attention and don't connect what the translators did, you will then think, as I think Danielle made an interesting statement, and many people made this same perspective and gave the same perspective. Danielle, I'm going to put your statement up on the screen for us all. Danielle Dugas Hawkins makes a statement. I thought, like I did long ago, that the NLT version was closer to the true Hebrew meaning. Well, anyone can say that, but I will say this, having access to every translation ever printed, that though I have and use every translation for teaching to the masses, the King James Version is the clearest, clean cut, if you follow the concordance definitions, Hebraic interpretation of the Torah. Now, the issue is you have to include the definitions from the concordance. So when you get the definitions of certain words, like we just broke down lawgiver, in the NLT, it says ruler. So you can see the play on interpretation based on the era in which the NLT translators brought that word out. Though they may have used lexicon and had all different types of scholars who are in fact modern day Hebrew speakers. So when you talk about, as I did, and dear Sister Hawkins, I want you to catch this, is that we were thought to think that the NLT was as close to the Hebrew meanings. You got to remember, there are 3 elements of Hebrew you and I encounter when we read the Bible. We have the ancient Hebrew. We have also an element called the biblical Hebrew, which could be anywhere throughout the Tanakh. But the ancient Hebrew also has a flirtation with the Chaldean, and there is a sister language to it called the Aramaic. So when we say, oh, it's the closest translation to the Hebrew, it most likely, especially with the NLT, means modern day Hebrew. Danielle, does that make sense? Great thought. Thanks for helping to add value to this teachable moment. Wanda, thank you for bringing that up. And if you guys are using a different translation, don't feel as if, oh, he's just King James, he's King James. No, I love some other translations, but I know it would be difficult for many to grasp because I'm very familiar with the concordance as well as the lexicons that many of you study with. And if you don't know the differences between the lexicons, and that there is a difference in the lexicon, not just Hebraically, but what era, E-R-A, of the Hebraic language. Just like English, we have the King's English, we have the King's English, which I guess would be the UK English, and then we have all the different versions. We have the American English, and so there are different versions of English. If you just generalize it English, generalize it Hebrew, and you don't take the time to differentiate between ancient, biblical, or modern day Hebrew, then that statement could be true if you're only looking at it from a modern day Hebrew, which there are nuances that shift, definitions that have been added, and those have probably taken the high seat in the define. But if you don't dig through like we do in the concordance, all the potential definitions, you could miss the intention of the author. Everybody okay with that? Understanding that? Danielle says,
Yes, sir.
Danielle says, yes, sir, I got it. Awesome, Danielle. And awesome, Minister Wanda. So back to chapter 10, chapter 49, Genesis, Bereishit, chapter 49, verse 10. Let's bring this to a conclusion. So when it says until the one who it belongs to comes, that's the NLT, but it simply says it here until Shiloh come. Well, who was the one that was supposed to come? Who was Israel looking for? Now, when we look at the word Shiloh, Shiloh in its definition, look to the right of your screen, H7886, that word Shiloh means tranquil. It means an epithet of the word. Can somebody say that for me? It's an epithet of the word Messiah.
Messiah.
Right? Now, guys, we're in a Bible book club, so I'm really going to want you guys to participate. And if not, we're going to just keep reading through. But I want you to understand those nuances affect how you see the intention of the author. And it could be slightly skewed, not drastically, but if you're just a bit off of the intention, you can end up coming up with your own interpretation. So that's why it's important. And you see me and people say, he always got all these words up on the screen. That's why I don't keep looking at it, because I can't read all them words on the screen. I do that so you can see on your right the Strong's Dictionary, the Strong's Index, the transliteration, and the pronunciations of that particular word. And when you open it up, it helps us with the aid of technology to pull up words at our fingertip that have the actual Hebraic definition in the varieties of the actual era of the Hebrew being spoken. So in here, you see tranquil, you see the word Shiloh, which is Shiloh, but Shiloh is an epithet for the word Messiah. So again, I ask and I beg of you all, who was Israel looking for to come? Okay, let me help you. Let me take you to a better response for your answer. Can I help you cheat on the answer? Come on, let's go. Here is what we know. Let's go to John chapter 4. Let's go down to verse number 25. And let's talk about the woman at the well. So let's look at, I'm going to start at verse number, just to give you context and familiarize yourself with what you already read and had preached to you and have an understanding of, but I want to bring it to the point where you see the foundation for it. So in the book of John, chapter number 4, I'm going to go all the way down to verse number 18. Let's go there. Well, let's go to verse number 7. There comes a woman of Samaria to draw water. Yeshua said unto her, give me water to drink. Give me to drink. Verse 8. For the disciples, they were gone away unto the city to buy meat. Then the woman says of Samaria unto Yeshua, verse 9, how is it that you, being a Jew, bro, asks me of drink? You know we don't get together. We don't rock. Samaritans and Judeans are absolutely enemies, right? He says, how is it that you, Mr. Jewish man, asks me, a Samaritan, for drink? I'm a woman of Samaria. For the Jews have no dealings with the Samaritans. Verse 10, Yeshua answered and said unto her, if you knew the gift of Elohim, he's talking about himself. If you knew who I was, and if you knew who it is that's saying to you, give me to drink, you would have asked of him, and he would have given you living water. Is the word considered water, people?
Yes.
It is. So the word is considered water. So he then goes on to say in verse 11 of John 4, the woman then said unto him, I'm sorry, VWJ translation. Let me keep it the King James. Verse 11 says, the woman said unto him, sir, you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. From whence then have you that living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us this well and drank of it himself and his children and his cattle? Verse 13. Yeshua answered and said unto her, whosoever drinks of this water shall thirst again. But whosoever drinks of the water that I shall give him shall never thirst, but the water that I shall give him shall be in him a well of water, springing up into everlasting life. Verse 15, the woman said unto him, Sir, well, give me that water that I thirst not. Neither do I have to come down here every day in the cool of the day to draw water and then carry it all the way back in this heavy 5-gallon, 10-gallon, 6-gallon container back to my house. Okay. Can we do that, sir? Because what we not going to do. All right. Verse 16. And Yeshua said unto her, go call your husband and then come to me. Come hither. Verse 17, the woman answered and said unto him, I have no husband. Yeshua said unto her, you have answered well, that you have no husband. Verse 18, for you've actually had 5 husbands, and he whom you have now is not your husband. And that said you truly. I got respect for you. Verse 19, the woman said unto him, Sir, I perceive that thou art a prophet. Keep listening. Who was Israel looking for, according to Genesis chapter 49, verse 10, until Shiloh come? Here's your answer. Verse 20, our fathers worshiped in this mountain. And you say as a Jew that in Jerusalem is the place where men ought to worship. Verse 21, and Yeshua said unto her, woman, believe me, the hour's coming when you shall neither in this mountain nor yet at Jerusalem worship Yahweh. See, you Samaritans, because of the civil war, you worship you know not what, because you guys augmented the Torah and you have your own priests that are not Levites. We know what we worship. Judea is, that is. For salvation is going to come from the Jews. She didn't even know that he was safety. Remember the definition in Genesis chapter 49:10, what Shiloh was? Safety. Oh, ain't that deep? Watch. He says, for salvation is of the Jews, because in the Jews, there's a tribe called Uda, and there shall not be a lawgiver that does not become from his descendants and or from the feet of Uda. So verse 22, you guys worship what you don't even know. You don't know what you worship. We in Udea, we do know at least what we're worshiping, because we still have the Levites in place as Yahweh instructed Moshe to do. You Samaritans, you guys don't have Levites as your priests. That should make a whole bunch of questions pop up in your minds. Verse 23, but the hour is coming, and now is, when the true worshipers, the true ones who are obedient, shall be obedient, shall worship Yahweh in spirit and in truth. For Yahweh seeks such to worship him. Verse 24, now we're getting to the answer to our question. You ready? Elohim is a spirit, not a building, not a mountain. And they that worship him must worship him in spirit, that's what the word is, and in truth, that's what the word is. Now here it is, look at it. Why and what were all the people looking, who were they looking to have come? The woman said unto him, look, man, I know that Messiah is coming. When he is come, he will tell us all things. Yeshua said unto her, I who speaks to you am he. So who was all of Israel looking for? Now, some of you may say, Apostle, you ran past a sentence a part of the sentence in verse 25. So let me tell you why that was done. The woman said unto him, verse 25, the woman said unto him, I know that Messiah comes. Then the translators added, which is called Christ, which is called Christos. They've translated the word Mashiach, which means Shiloh, and they have now taken that word as Greek interpreters and put in the word Christo, because that's the only word in the Greek that can compare to the anointed one and his anointing. Mashiach and or Shiloh coming, they translated the name to Christos. And from this point forward in your New Testament Bible, it will be the last time you hear and read the word Messiah. Any other time, it will be based on the Greek translation from this verse. Now, let me read it in context. The woman said unto him, I know that Mashiach is coming. Who are they all looking for? Mashiach. Is Mashiach Shiloh? Look at the right part of your screen. Look at the right of your screen. That Hebrew word from Bereishit chapters 49, verse 10 is the word Shiloh. It means tranquil. Shiloh is an epithet for Messiah. So why did the Greeks translate the word Messiah into the word Christo? Because they only had this word in Greek to make that word Messiah make sense. Now, it does mean anointed one. It does mean his anointing. However, Messiah means so much more than just the anointed one and his anointing. So, again, we are in the book of John, chapter 4, verse 25. The woman said unto Yeshua, I know as a Samaritan, and you know as a Jew, that Messiah is coming. We're looking for Messiah to come. When he is come, he's going to tell us all things. Let's continue reading for the sake of context. Verse 26, Yeshua said unto her, I who speaks to you am he. Look at verse 27. And upon this, his disciples came, and they were marveling that he was talking with the woman. Now, the with the woman phrase means with this Samaritan woman. They knew she was Samaritan. She knew she was Samaritan. She knew they with him were all Judean, and they don't rock. They don't get down. They don't hang out together. Y'all enemies to us. Since the Civil War, Rehoboam and Jeroboam. Jeroboam, the northern kingdom, was the Samaritans. They got rid of all the priests and they made their own priests. They never used the Levitical priests once Jeroboam took over, and the short time that they did, they kept changing things, augmenting the Torah, and the Levites protested and came to the southern kingdom, Judea. That's why Messiah says, you don't even have the proper priests in place to remind you of the Torah the right way, so you don't even know what you worship. We, because we have the Levites, sanctioned by Elohim, ordained by Elohim, we know what we worship because out of Uda will come Shiloh. Well, wait a minute, sir. We know that Messiah is coming. Yeshua says, I who speak to you am he. Verse number 27. Then the disciples came, and they were in marvel that he was talking to a Samaritan. Yet, because it was Yeshua, no man said anything. They did not say, what do you seek? And why are you talking to her? Once the disciples came, verse 28 says, the woman then left her water pot, probably because she thought she might get jumped by these Judeans. Y'all didn't catch that, did y'all? The woman left her pot and went her way into the city. Now, I was joking. She wasn't getting jumped. But she was blown away by what he says. You're telling me that you're the Messiah. I already perceive that you're a prophet. You're telling me stuff that you shouldn't know because you're a Judean. I'm a Samaritan. You're telling me stuff that you should not know. And she left her water pot there. And she went her way, verse 28, into the city and said unto the men in the city, hey, y'all, come see a man which, verse 29, told me all things that I ever did. Is not this the Messiah? And the people went out to see him and came unto him. Reads different, don't it? So who, according to Genesis chapter 49, verse 10, are the people looking to come? Shiloh. What's the proper definition for Shiloh? Messiah. We know Shiloh's coming. I who speak to you am Shiloh. She left her water pot while the other men from him were coming, and she went to tell the people of Samaria, hey, y'all, I think Messiah's here. So they were all looking for Messiah. Back to Genesis chapter number 49. Verse 10. Look at it. The scepter shall not depart from Uda. Salvation's coming from the Jews. Why? Because the Jews consist, are you ready for this? The Jews consist of 3 tribes. Levi, who left the southern kingdom, the northern kingdom, came down to the southern kingdom and went to the tabernacle. It also consisted of the tribe of Benjamin, the other tribe that had the first king Yahweh permitted when they asked for a king like other nations. King Saul was a Benjamite. So Udea, the Jews, exist in 3 of the 12 tribes. Levi, Benjamin, and then the second tribe of post or pre-Solomon, Uda. Is this making sense, guys? Was that too much? Because that's how you have to read the writ to understand its actual intention.
This makes sense.
Yes.
So let's go back to Genesis chapter number 49, verse 10. The scepter shall not depart from Uda. Uda's in the element called Judaism. Nor shall a lawgiver depart from between Judaism's feet until Shiloh come. Can I blow your minds right now? Here's a moment for mind blow. Y'all ready?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I want everybody to come off mic and say, until Shiloh comes. 1, 2, 3, go.
Until
So what was stated before that? The scepter, the ruler, the lawgiver shall not depart from the feet of Uda until Shiloh comes. There will not be. When Messiah shows up, dies, rises again, Levi is no longer, now this is deep, Levi is no longer the high priest. Yeshua is now our high priest. Ironically, he also envelops the scepter, which makes him king. That's why Herod was so freaked out when Messiah was being born. Because when the Magi came, let me break this down for y'all. When the Magi came, watch this. When the Magi came, watch this, Matthew chapter 2. Look at this. Matthew chapter 2. This is why y'all got to read this properly. Matthew chapter 2. Ready? I'm going to take y'all to Matthew 2. See it? Look at the screen. Look at the screen. Look at the screen. This is why Herod freaked out. Matthew chapter 2. Now, when Yeshua was born in Bethlehem of Judea during the days of the Judean king Herod, behold, there came wise men from the east, and they came to Jerusalem. Here's what they said. Where is, O King Herod, he that is born King of the Jews? Verse 3, when Herod heard that the born king, that the Messiah was born, watch this, when Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled, and all of Jerusalem with him. So what did he do? Verse 4, King Herod gathered all the chief priests, got all the scribes of the people together, and demanded of them where Messiah would be born. They said, in Bethlehem of Judea, for it's written of the prophets. And thou, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, you are not the least among the princesses of Judah, for out of thee shall come a governor. Wait a minute. So the word Shiloh, look at the right part of your screen, the Hebrew word Shiloh, which also means Messiah, comes from the word 7951 in the Hebrew, which is also the word Shalal. It means, or Shalav, it means, watch this, it means tranquil, secure, successful, safety. So thou art not the least of the princes of Judah, for of thee shall come a governor. A ruler. The word lawgiver also says a governor. That shall rule my people Israel. Verse 6 again. And thou, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, art not the least among the princesses. For out of thee, as prophesied, shall come a lawgiver. The word governor here in the Greek means G2233. It means hagiomai, right? It means, watch this, to lead. It means a commander, one with official authority. It means a chief. It means a governor, a judge, one who will have rule over, supposed to, thinks on behalf of. Verse 6 again. And you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are not the least among the princesses of Judah, for out of you shall come a governor that shall rule my people Israel. Verse 7, Herod freaks out because he's now going to lose his job because Herod was elected by birthright and some shenanigans of jockeying, Herod, when he heard this, he privately called the wise men. He inquired of them diligently what time the star appeared, because he knew the feast days. And why are the stars in the sky, people? Genesis chapter number 1. Look at chapter 1. Verse 14. Elohim said, "Let there be lights in the firmaments of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years." So why did he ask when was the star seen? Because Herod, being of Udea, being of Torah observance, knew that the season, if it was the season of Sukkah, which must have just happened, he's like, did this happen during a time of Yahweh's commandments? Because if it did, this is the omen. And you know what? I'm so stuck on my job and my position. Verse number 5, Matthew chapter 2. When Herod heard this, he asked them, "What time did y'all see the star?" Why would he ask what time, y'all? Because the stars and the lights are in the heavens for times and seasons. Did anyone think that that was an odd question for King Herod to ask? Okay. Well, at least we got down a little bit. No one's talking, so I'm going to let y'all talk.
I'm thinking about it now, Apostle.
That's wonderful.
Now it all makes sense now.
Yes, it makes sense now.
And so as we read Genesis 49:10, he says, "The scepter shall not depart from Uda." Is Yeshua from Uda?
Yes, sir.
Is Yeshua HaMashiach the lawgiver, the living word?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Does he come from between the feet of Uda?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Is he Shiloh?
Yes.
Amen. Yes.
Will we be gathering under him as a people?
Yes.
Yes.
I hope that hits different for you.
Yes, sir.
I got you, beloved. I'm coming for you. I hope this makes sense to you guys. And I hope you slow down reading the writ so you can understand it. Now, if you notice, we didn't use any commentary, but I took you throughout this entire Bible, Old Testament to the New Testament, to show you what the Torah actually said. And now you could see through the record of Yeshua's interaction with the woman at the well, who's also looking for Messiah, now wondering if this is the Messiah. Herod, before the woman at the well, contemplating with his scribes and with his priests, hey, y'all, these guys said they saw the star during Sukkah. Mighty things happen during the feast season. When did y'all say y'all saw the star? because that tells him the times of omens that potentially could happen. And he freaked out because he was the king and he couldn't believe, like many of us, that the rapture will happen in our day, or in his case, that the king, the prophesied king would be born during his reign. So he, in his dumbness, led a campaign to kill every child born within a 2-year frame of that star these men from the east saw. When did y'all see the star? Does that hit different?
It does.
Yes.
All right, Pastor Spencer, beloved, how are you? What you got?
Shalom, Apostle,
Shalom.
everyone. This is really good, but you can't stop there where you did. I know you said you finished reading the scepter shall not depart from Uda, nor a lawgiver from between his feet until Shiloh, who we now know and understand to be Messiah, comes. And unto him shall the gathering of the people be. Now, you teach us to look at each word. And so as you were reading, I was looking at the word gathering.
Mm-hmm.
And that means obedience.
It means
unto him shall the obedience of a congregated people, as in the tribe of Israel be. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this just spells it out so clearly. When we see the word gathering, I don't know about you, I didn't think about obedience.
Because everybody in church gathers, but how many are in there being obedient?
That part, Apostle. So this blessing that Jacob is pronouncing, that was the first thing that I wanted to share. So I wasn't sure if you kept hearing me when I was saying my name, but that was the first thing. The other thing is I appreciate the review that you did, because I've missed a few weeks. And as you started from verse 1 and we're now in verse 11, I noted an observation with the blessing of Reuben and Uda. And so Jacob told Reuben that he was unstable as water. But to Uda, he said, of course, that, his brothers would praise him, that the scepter would not depart. But I thought about when they were going to Egypt, and when Usef kept back Benjamin, and Reuben and Judah, when they went back to their father, and he asked where Benjamin was, and they said that Yusuf had kept him. Mm-hmm. Well, they didn't know he was Yusuf.
Zephanath Paneah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, that he had kept him. So Reuben, if you remember, Reuben told Jacob, he said that Reuben offered his own sons. He didn't offer himself, but Uda
offered himself
if he didn't bring Benjamin back. And that was a foreshadowing of Messiah, Adonai, telling the Father, I will go myself and be a surety. I will die for them. That's what Uda
is in the blood.
So we have to see that these blessings, right? The blessing is a pronouncement of both spiritual and physical manifestations.
Attributes.
And we can see that with each blessing that Jacob had spoken to his sons. And also, Reuben, when I was reading this, I could feel his heart, Jacob's heart, because Reuben was his firstborn, his strength, his might. And I'm not a father, but I can only imagine a father when they sire a male seed that first time, what that must feel like to that father.
I can tell you.
I can only imagine the disappointment maybe Jacob felt when he saw the real characteristics of Reuben. And the firstborn, we know, is offered the right to rule and a double portion.
The firstborn, there is an actual blessing of the firstborn.
And Reuben didn't get any.
And Jacob is not giving it to him. So even when we use the phrase, and I know exactly what you mean, and you did this beautifully, I just want to sort of kind of enhance that phrase blessing, because it's not just a blessing, it's a setting in order of what must and will befall you. So Reuben's situation wasn't a blessing. Levi and Simeon's issue wasn't a blessing. It was a order. It was a element that is of a foretelling. Here is what's going to happen to you. Here is me telling you, this is how your lot will fall. Levi didn't get any heritage. He got Yahweh as his heritage, right? And in a weird sense, that's Yahweh pulling a wayward child close to his chest and keeping him near him so he can't get in any more mess and kill another man with his anger. Now, we can look at it as a blessing because Levi ends up becoming the high priest and a priesthood. But Reuben, supposed to be the power, the excellency, the majesty. Like you say, when you sire a son, as a man, you're going to demand that seed, that male seed, that Zerah carries the name. And he's like, you ain't fit. You unstable as water. I can't put this blessing on you. But I'm going to tell you what's going to happen to you. Simeon, you and Levi, I can't put it on y'all. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen to you. Uda, come here. Now, this is what's deep. Uda's the fourth son. The number 4 is the number of human government.
Apostle. Wow.
I'm going to say it again because I don't think everybody caught it.
I promise you, that kicked me in my chest. I literally got breathless when you said that.
Uda,
that's so powerful.
Uda is the 4th son, and the number 4, you have a 4th dispensation from Adam, which is in Noah's day, which is when Yahweh resets the earth and puts Noah into human government over the reset. So the 4th dispensation is of human government. The 4th son is going to be governing all the people prophetically.
Okay. I like what I'm hearing.
So when you understand this and you look at this, it begins to give you, I would hope, a desire to seek the meanings of the encounters. I told you guys long ago, it's going to be a long time before y'all leave chapter 40, 47 through 47 through 50. There is so much in here to unpack that actually foretell. And in the record of the New Testament, you see the foundation for why Messiah had the conversation with the woman at the well, what she was speaking of when she says, look, we know Messiah is coming. Messiah told them, look, y'all don't even know what you're supposed to be doing. And what you thought you knew, you don't know, because you don't have the priests that were set by Elohim. You got your own priests. Remember, when they had the civil war, Jeroboam got his division. He got the 10 tribes. They went up north. And when the priests who were assigned up north prior to Jeroboam being king started getting Jeroboam's instructions, they were made to change things at the point of death. And after a couple of killings, they were like, yo, Buddy is off the rails. And all of the priests, all the tribes of Levi dispersed throughout those 10 regions, all gathered and coagulated at Jerusalem. When Levi showed up, Benjamin was there and Judah, their tribes were there, and that became Judea. That is the Jews. There are still 10 other tribes that are called Samaria that most Christians thought were heathens. Great points, Pastor Spencer. The gathering of the people are those who are going to be obedient to the Torah. Great ad. Awesome ad. Well, Zion, we've been an hour and a half into this, and this is why you got to take your time with the writ, because you'll end up preaching some stuff that sounds good and can sell and move a crowd, but do you know the intention? We got conferences out here called The Woman at the Well, and y'all talking about a woman and connecting that to Proverbs 31. And, you know, she was a floozy. She was a homewrecker, had nothing to do. She was probably more righteous than any woman accusing her of being a floozy. She had 5 husbands. That means she legally married these men. They put her away. And the one she's considering now shouldn't be your husband. So Messiah is not talking to some foolish floozy. He's talking to a woman who is looking for the Messiah, even though her priests don't even know what they're supposed to know. I'm going to leave you guys right there. Yes, some of you will have to go back and catch the replay. I recommend you do it now. You'll see some other things that you didn't pay attention to while you were in the live stream. Did you guys learn anything today?
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right. Well, I'm going to leave it there. We'll pick up next week. Moderators, please remind me where we stopped off at. I think it's verse 14 or 15, somewhere like that. And we'll pick up from Genesis, I think 14, 15 next week. And but do you see how we went reading that one passage to 4 different books of the Bible to give you 4 different records of actual events, and now you have their foundation for existence. That's how you read and exegete the writ. My name is Apostle V.W. Jones. I love doing this, but I really need your input, and today's input was excellent. Thank you all for your significant questions and your important adds of value to today's teaching and reading. I want to take an opportunity to pray over you today. And prayerfully, while we're contemplating what we saw, Ruach HaKodesh will remind you in your own private studies, possibly in Shabbat, of what he's really saying even the more. Oh, there's so much more in those verses we didn't touch. I'm going to let you go search them out and let the questions come. And then if you have them, we can talk about them on our next broadcast of Bible Book Club. Yahweh, we thank you for the daytime, and we thank you for your word. We thank you that you, Father, are one who looks to visit with your people. Who is man that you are mindful of him? Who is the Son of Man that you visit us? Thank you. Thank you for your word of instruction. Thank you for your word of peace and hope and strength and joy. And I ask you today that all the things that we've heard, let them not be, as you said, the sower who casts his seed, some on stony ground, some on dry ground, some on ground that the birds pick the seeds up and carry them away. Some who get the revelation real quick, they think, and it springs up, but it burns out the roots because it's taken root on a rock. Help us to be those who get this in good depth of ground. This I pray in the mighty name of Yeshua HaMashiach. Until we meet again next week, we shout and scream, Alleluia, Yahweh. You alone are holy, you alone are righteous, and you alone are our Elohim. Well, Zion, I'm going to give you the benediction, and then we're going to move on from here. And I hope you'll come back and tune in with us on next week. We also have some programs during the week you may want to tune into as well. Let me give you the benediction. The Bible declares that Yahweh told Moshe and Aaron that if you have in fact taught the people and you're realizing they are trying to do what I'm teaching you all, put my name on them. And when you put my name on them, you're blessing them. And I will empower them to do what they have heard because they want to do it. Here is the prayer, Moshe, Aaron, I want you to put on the people. So here it is. Y'all want to get it? Put your palms to the ceiling, hands in front of your chest like you're expecting Yahweh to pour out the blessings you don't have room to receive. Receive this blessing. May Yahweh bless you and keep you. May Yahweh make his face to shine on you and be gracious unto you. May Yahweh lift his countenance up on you and grant you all 13 attributes of his shalom. This we pray in the mighty name of Yeshua HaMashiach. Bring your hands back to your chest and say, I get that. I receive it. Amen. Well, I'm going to give you an announcement. I hope you tune into it and pay attention to it. Those of you who are citizens of this Kingdom Post, y'all know we don't care for the thing. We just have to do this because it's part of our programming. And maybe you want to be a blessing to what you've learned today. Never go to a restaurant and not leave a tip.
Thank you for tuning in today. I hope that this message has been a blessing to your very life and your soul, and more importantly, your walk with the King. Well, we have come to the end. I hope that you would consider becoming either a partner with us in ministry, or if you're not already a kingdom citizen, consider becoming one. By doing that, you can sow into this ministry so that we are able to continue to teach this type of ministry at a grand scale. Join us on all of our social media platforms and visit our webpage to make your contributions sure. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Shalom Aleichem.
If you need truth, this is the place for you. Don't need to complicate it. It's best to keep it basic. Open the book, the word itself approved. He's Alpha and Omega, the answer since the early ages. What you should do is learn about the greatest. Just so you know, our door is always open. Let's study together instead of debating. Share our differences, let love heal all that's broken.